to me, as I look at this room here and at the overflow crowd we had outside, it looks to me like Oceanside is ready for a political revolution. I'm here tonight for two reasons. Number one, along with you, in the next week, I'm going to do everything that I can to end one-party reactionary rule in Washington, D.C. Now, nobody knows, of course, what the results of the election will be, but this is what I believe. I believe that at the end of the day, the party that controls the U.S. House of Representatives will end up winning by a very few congressional seats, and this seat could well be the difference between victory and defeat. So tonight, I am here begging you to do everything that you can to elect Mike Levin to the United States Congress. And I'm asking you not only to come out and vote for him, I'm asking you to drag out your friends, your family, your co-workers, your co-students. If every one of the 2,000 people here ends up bringing 3 other people out, we got 6,000 votes for Mike, and that will take him over the top. Let's do it. And the second reason that I'm here is not only that I want Mike to win as a Democrat, I am here because Mike is a strong, progressive Democrat. Mike understands that we need an economy and a government which works for all of us, not just the 1%. And Mike is going to work with me to end a corrupt political system so that billionaires cannot continue to buy elections. And together we are going to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. Mike and I are old-fashioned, and we believe that democracy means one person, one vote, not billionaires electing the candidates of their choice. And Mike knows not only that we have a corrupt political system, but that we have a rigged economy in which the very, very rich are getting much richer, while people all over this country are forced to work 2 or 3 jobs just to survive. And unless Mike is elected, unless Democrats gain control of the House, we're going to continue to see a government which gives huge tax breaks to the wealthiest people and ignores the needs of working families. We cannot allow that to happen. I left Vermont a week ago last night, and we've now been to 8 states, 9 states, and tomorrow we're going to end up in Oakland, California, with your great Congresswoman, Barbara Lee. And I want to just briefly tell you a little bit of what I have seen in America in the last week alone. Just 1 week. Week ago, I was in Indiana, and I sat down with a group of workers who were promised health care when they retired. These are workers who worked 20 or 30 years for Honeywell and other companies, but the corporation pulled the rug out from underneath them, lied to them, and took away the benefits that they were promised. This is not just happening in Indiana. It is happening all over the country, where corporate greed is pushing down and ignoring the needs of working families to give huge compensation packages to the CEOs and huge profits to the corporations. And today we tell corporate America that we, Mike and I and others, are going to stop this corporate greed and create an economy that works for the middle class. I was in Iowa. After we went to Indiana, we went to Iowa. I sat in a room with working people. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A young woman, I suspect in her late 20s, a single mother. She said, Bernie, I was working for 7 years for the minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. Can you imagine a single mother working at $7.25? She recently got a new job at $8 an hour. And what Mike understands and what I understand is we are going to end starvation wages in this country. And if you work 40 hours a week, you're not going to live in poverty in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. And Mike is going to work with me to raise the national minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour. So that's what I heard in Iowa, and then I went to Colorado. I'm sitting around talking to people in Colorado, and they told me, and I really could not believe this, that in Colorado, half of the school districts in that state are on 4-day schedules. Kids in Colorado are not going to school 5 days a week because the state and the feds have not provided the kind of revenue they need. And they have teachers there in Colorado and all over America who are earning wages that are so low that they're forced to work 2 or 3 jobs. And what we say is, if we love our children, if we want the future of this country to be what we know it can be, we are not going to have kids going to school 4 days a week. We're going to give them the best education in the world. This morning, here in San Diego, I had the honor to join a picket line with Unite Here Local 30, who is telling the Marriott Corporation, the wealthiest and largest corporation in America, to pay your workers there a living wage. And just this evening, we came here at America's beautiful, beautiful campus. But again, I was told something that I think people in this country would have a hard time believing. I was told that here in Maricosta, you have a food pantry because there are students here who are worried about where they're going to get their next meal. Then you have a situation here and all over this country where young people do not have permanent housing. Brothers and sisters, we are not a struggling third world country. This is the United States of America, And we're not going to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and then create a situation where students don't have adequate housing or food security. That is not what this country is supposed to be about. And Mike knows that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we have to end the grotesque level, the obscene level of income and wealth inequality that exists now. Does anybody think that it makes sense that the 3 wealthiest people in this country own more wealth than the bottom half of America? Does anybody think that it is moral that the top 1/10 of 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%? Does anybody think it's right that the top 1% is today receiving 40% of all new income? So Mike is going to go to Washington with me, and he is going to take on the billionaire class. He's going to take on the greed of multinational corporations and Wall Street. And he is going to fight to return government to the people and not just wealthy campaign contributors. Now, I know that Trump did not do too well in California. Congratulations, California. And I notice that he doesn't come back here to say hello very often. He doesn't like California, which says a lot about the state of California. Because I have the feeling, I believe the feelings are mutual. But I want to say a word to those people in California and around the country who did vote for Donald Trump. And what I want to say to them is that in 2016, the people of California and the people of Vermont and the people of America did not know one important fact about Donald Trump. And that is that he is a pathological liar who says one thing today and something very different tomorrow. When he campaigned around the country, Trump said, as you'll recall, that he would provide health care to everybody. But then when he became president, he led the effort to throw 32 million Americans off of the health care they had. How disgraceful is that? Trump said he would take on the pharmaceutical industry. He lied. Drug prices have soared over the last 2 years. Trump told the American people, he said, I'm a different type of Republican. I will not cut Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. He lied. His last budget called for $1 trillion cut to Medicaid, $500 billion to Medicare, $72 billion to the Social Security Disability Fund. And I find it really interesting about Trump's personality that he pretends to be a really tough guy. He's a very tough guy when he has his agents ripping babies out of the hands of their mothers on the southern border. Really tough guy, but he ain't so tough when it comes to standing up to Putin and protecting American democracy. It is very, very tough when it comes to proposing a budget which would make massive cuts to nutrition programs for low-income pregnant women. How tough can you be? But when it comes to standing up to the dictator in Saudi Arabia who had a dissident journalist killed, Trump is not so tough on that issue. I want to thank the people in California for the strong support you gave me in the 2016. Thank you. We came from nowhere and we got over 46% of the vote. So thank you, California. But not just California. We ended up winning 22 states. We ended up getting over 13 million votes, and maybe most importantly, we ended up getting more votes from young people, black and white and Latino, Asian American, Native Americans, than Trump and Clinton combined. And as a result of the millions of votes that we got, ideas that we fought for 3 years ago, which our opponents said were radical ideas, extremist ideas, ideas that the American people wouldn't support, well, guess what? In almost every instance, those ideas are now supported by the vast majority of the American people. 3 years ago, $15 minimum wage in a union seemed like a radical idea. Today, it is spreading right here in California. Thank you, California. And other states and cities all over this country. And by the way, when we talk about fair wages, it means that we're going to end this absurdity of women making 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. And when we talk about women's rights, we understand that it is a woman who will control her own body, not the federal state. I am tired of the hypocrisy of Republicans who say we believe in limited government. We Republicans want to get the government off the backs of the people. Well, if you want to get government off the backs of the people, support a woman's right to choose. Three years ago, we proposed another quote-unquote radical idea, and we said that in the year 2016, now in 2018, that when most of the new jobs being created, the good jobs, require a higher education, when we are living in a very competitive global economy, that we have got to make higher education available to all people regardless of their income. And that is why Mike is going to work with me to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And we're going to substantially lower student debt that many of you are carrying right now. How absurd is it that when all of us know that we do not succeed unless we have the best educated workforce in the world, when we tell our young people, go to college, get a good education, and then they come out of school $50,000, $100,000 in debt and saddled with that debt for decades. We're not going to punish young people. We're going to substantially lower that student debt. And if Trump and his friends tell us we can't afford to do that. I say that if you can afford to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires in this country, you damn well can afford to make public colleges and universities. 3 years ago, some of us said what seemed like a radical idea 3 years ago, that we believe that health care is a right, not a privilege. That we think that it is a disgrace that 30 million Americans have no health insurance, and many of you are underinsured with high deductibles and high copayments. And we think it is outrageous that 1 out of 5 Americans cannot afford the prescription drugs their doctors prescribe, while the pharmaceutical industry earns billions and billions of dollars each and every year. And at the end of all of that dysfunctionality in our healthcare system, we end up spending twice as much as any other major country on earth to provide healthcare. And the American people began to think about this issue. And they began to ask themselves why we are the only major country not to guarantee health care. And they began to ask themselves whether or not health care is right. And they concluded that we must go forward with a Medicare for all single-payer program. And I want you, some of you may have noticed, you got Trump and his friends out there attacking Bernie Sanders on Medicare for all. You know why they're doing that? Because the last poll that came out has 70% of the American people supporting a Medicare for all. And when Trump lies about saying that we're going to weaken Medicare for the elderly, I want every senior citizen in California to know we're going to expand and improve Medicare, because we're going to provide dental care, we're going to provide hearing aids, we're going to provide vision care as well. This is the wealthiest nation on earth, and we used to have cutting-edge technology and cutting-edge infrastructure. When I was in California a few years ago, I was stunned. We went to the agricultural areas to learn there are thousands of homes where they turn on the faucet, they can't get clean drinking water. It's not just Flint, Michigan, it's California, it's been in Vermont, it's all over this country. And that is why we're going to invest $1 trillion in rebuilding our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our water systems. And we're going to create 13 million good-paying jobs. Now, it is hard to keep up with all the lies that Trump tells. Really is. You've got to have a full-time job just keeping up with all of the lies. But a couple of weeks ago, he told a lie that has global consequences. And that is, he was on a TV show and he said, we're not quite certain about climate change. There are differences of opinions. That is a lie. The scientific community is almost 100% united in knowing that climate change is real, that it is caused by human activity, that it is already doing devastating harm to California, Vermont, this country, and in fact the entire world. Some of you may have read about a report that came out a couple of weeks ago from the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And what they said should scare the hell out of every person on this planet. What they said, and this is a 700-page study based on thousands of studies all over the world. And what these scientists said, that if we do not get our act together in the next 12 years, not a long period of time, that the planet that will leave our kids and grandchildren will have irreparable damage and will not be healthy for future generations. So we say to Trump, and we say to the fossil fuel industry, your short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. Three years ago, along with groups like Black Lives Matter and the ACLU, we talked about a criminal justice system that was not only broken, but was in many respects racist. And we said there is something profoundly wrong when we have more people in jail, 2 million people, than any other country on earth. We are spending $80 billion at the local, state, and federal level to lock up fellow Americans who are disproportionately African American, Latino, Native American. And what we've said and what you know is that part of a broken criminal justice system is a so-called war on drugs that has been a horrible failure. And I want to thank California and Colorado and all those other states and my own state of Vermont for moving forward to make certain that we legalize marijuana. And I want to thank California for being the first state in this country to end another obscenity within criminal justice. Right now in America, we have 400,000 people tonight who are behind bars for the crime of being poor. They cannot afford cash bail. And we thought that we eliminated debtor's prison 100 years ago, not so. Thank you, California, for helping us to lead the effort to end cash bail. We have a president who has demonized immigrants. Our belief from the bottom of our hearts, and I speak as somebody whose father came to this country. I'm a first-generation American who came to this country from Poland without a nickel in his pocket, never made any money, but was the proudest American you have ever seen. And our job is, as soon as we possibly can, which is why Mike's election is so important, we have got to provide legal protection to the 1.8 million young people in the DACA program. We have got to end the attacks against the immigrant community, and we must pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. I disagree with Trump on virtually everything. I disagree with him on the economy, on healthcare, on immigration, on climate change, you name it. But I want to say there is an area and a opposition that goes deeper than even policies, and that is this. Our country, our presidents of our country have always understood one thing, whether they were conservative, whether they were liberal. And they understood that the function of a president of the United States was to bring our people together. And for the first time in the modern history of a country, for cheap political gains, this guy thinks he can win more votes by getting one group of people to hate another group of people. that he can divide us up by the color of our skin or where we came from or our religion or our sexual orientation or even our gender. Now, everybody in this room knows that in this great country, we have throughout our history done some extraordinary things that we are very proud of. We have led the world. The world has looked to us in so many ways for leadership. But we also understand that throughout our history, there have been things done that we are not proud of. We know what was done to the Native American people when the settlers came here. We know about the unspeakable abomination of slavery and segregation. We know that 100 years ago, women in America did not have the right to vote. Women could not go to a college like this. Women could not go out and get the jobs that they wanted because 100 years ago, women were second-class citizens. And we know about all of the pain that our brothers and sisters in the LGBT community experience because they have to hide their sexuality. We know all about that. But what we also know is that throughout the history of this country, there have been people of enormous courage from day one who stood up and spoke about our common humanity. That all of us, whether we are black or white or Latino, Asian American, Native American, whether we are gay or straight, male or woman, that we all share the same dreams and the same hopes. And we say to Donald Trump, from the depths of our hearts, Mr. Trump, you are not going to divide us up. We are not going backwards. We are going forwards as one people. Brothers and sisters, a week from Tuesday will be the most important midterm election perhaps in the history of our country. And that election will determine whether or not Donald Trump continues to do his things unchecked by either the House or the Senate. We cannot allow that to happen. Please, in the next week, do everything you can to bring your friends to vote. Let's elect Mike Levin, the next congressman from the 49th district. And thank you all very much.